me that you've really thought through all of the different ways to try and keep these guys safe and protected.
Yeah, and they're probably, my guess is they're adding stuff almost on a daily basis as different situations come out. Let's go back in time though before we talk about what's going on right now, and talk about some happy times we had in downtown Cleveland. 4 years ago today, it was the parade, and you were doing it on TV here with Dave Bacon and somebody else. Who else?
Dan Lobby.
Oh, and Dan Lobby, absolutely. And I was doing it on radio on 92.3 The Fan, and 1.3 million is the number we came up with, basically because the in vaudeville, odd numbers are funnier than even numbers, so that's how we came up with that. I don't know if you knew that.
Everybody's running with 1.3 million, it's gospel at this point in time too, which I think is hilarious.
Right. So here you see downtown Cleveland, a perfect day for it, and we always talked before this came about that if the Browns would ever win, it would be a bigger parade. I'm not so sure because it would be in February. So, but this is what we got in June of 4 years ago. What were your feelings as that was going on?
It was long, right? I mean, my goodness. It was a hot day, and it was supposed to start at one time, and it was really, really long because logistically, Cleveland doesn't know how to do this, and that's no knock against the city. They have no experience. There's no playbook for how to do this. There's no past experience that they can draw on for how to do it properly. So I remember talking to some people that got there so early, Les, and they lined up close to the gate. And it just didn't matter because everybody just raced to the front and they charged down the barricades, and then they filed into the street and made it difficult for the players to get through. So the length of it is something that really stood out to me.
Yeah, the restroom factor, I believe, is also a big part of the deal, or lack thereof.
Yeah. I mean, for the players, too, it was difficult because they didn't know how long they were going to be dealing with it.
Right.
They were in the heat. They had their families. They had their kids. I don't think they had as much water as they would want to have. So, I mean, it was a great thing because you had all of the pictures of people hanging from buildings and just trying to get a glimpse and take in this special moment in Cleveland. And at the same time, you had players that really couldn't get through on the route that they wanted to because there were so many people that wanted to be a part of it, wanted to experience it. So that was a day that the entire community came together. And it didn't matter if you were from the east side or the west side, right? It didn't matter if the person next to you was actually your buddy. You were a Clevelander that day, and that's all that mattered. And the last time that I can recall in this city feeling that same kind of sense of community and togetherness, Les, it was actually the day that LeBron came back. He announced his return. Like, you hugged strangers, you high-fived with people that you didn't know because you're just so caught up in the emotion and you're so overwhelmed with excitement. And to spin it forward to the championship parade, to me, it's just fitting that the person that brought us all together again was LeBron. It seems like he always has a knack for doing that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that we just watched the Michael Jordan biographies and all that, and 5 different championships, and you wonder if they hit on the right thing on the first one and they just did it on 2, 3, 4, and 5, or did they have little touches? To me, they all ran together. Maybe, when you have that many. This is a dumb thing to say. If you have that many, maybe not each individual one is as fun as it could be, but that's not possible.
I don't think that is possible. I hope, let's say this, Les, I hope that we don't ever get to a sense where we start taking these kinds of things for granted.
Hey, I just thought of this because you're talking about 2016, and that was at the same time the Indians and the Cubs were in the World Series together. And I'm just wondering if the Cavaliers won theirs and then Cleveland and then the Indians win theirs, or vice versa, how much different it might have been. How much cachet do you get for being the first one to win it in 52 years? I assume you would rather have it that way than sharing it with somebody else, right?
Absolutely, no doubt. And I got the sense that LeBron wanted to be the one to do that too. And I think it's not just that. I mean, it's that, obviously. It's the 52 years. It's what it meant to the city. But I think there were other subplots to it as well. Part of it being it was LeBron, it was a guy from Akron, and on top of that, the Cavs rallied from a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors. They did something that had never been done before in NBA Finals history. So you add it all together, you put it in a big soup, and I think that's why it had the reaction and the excitement that it did. And I don't want to say that an Indians World Series wouldn't have had the same level, but I just think those little subplots about it meant so much to that championship when we talk about it in history.
And you mentioned coming back from 3-1. If it played out the way it was supposed to, if the Cavaliers don't have those injuries in Game 1, maybe they win Game 1 and then they win the whole thing in 6 games. And it's a winning. If you know you're going to win it in 7, you'd rather win it in 7.
I think if you can guarantee that, sure, because it certainly adds to it. Of course, it's very, very difficult to go on the road and win a Game 7, especially against the team that you were playing in the Golden State Warriors. But I got the sense, it's funny that you bring that up, because it was after Game 4. It was after Game 4, everybody was in the locker room. The Cavs had just gone down 3-1. But that was when, at the end of Game 4, Draymond Green decided to kick LeBron in the jewels, and then there were questions about his suspension. So that's what the conversation was in the locker room that night. Even though the Cavs were down 3-1, there was this sense of, we might be okay here, in part because Draymond opened the door for us. We just have to go get Game 5. There's no chance that the Warriors are coming back here winning Game 6 on our home floor. And then we just have it be a one-game situation where we have LeBron James, the guy who can impact a game more than anybody else, where we have Kyrie Irving, a cold-blooded assassin, in a close game situation. We feel like we've got a chance here. So there was a vibe, Les, after Game 4, even though the Cavs were down 3-1, that it was going to go 7, and they were far from out of it.